the heavy lifting is done in the videos. And I've learned now I did a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. We go through that process of becoming therapists, and now I'm a coach. You learn in a theoretical fashion, and then you learn in an applied fashion. So we take the theory and then we have to apply it. And that's how I built this program. All the videos, all the home exercises, none of that is generated by anything like ChatGPT or AI. This is my entire life's work of 10 years working with couples, thousands of couples at this point, done over, thousands of hours one-on-one and group coaching, mentoring. What you're getting in the videos, what I share in the videos, what you are getting in the home exercises, these are all my own words of what I see works in relationships. It's what not only that I see in my clinical practice when I'm a therapist, not only what I see in my coaching practice when I do this 5-week program one-on-one with clients, it's also what I use in my own marriage. And I was just remarking to a client this morning how after 17 years, going on 18 years with my wife, I don't think I've ever felt more connected and in love with my wife today than I did on the day we met. And so that's not by accident. It's really just by practice. So relationships to me are a practice in discipline, a practice in showing up, making an effort every single day. But I'm also not so ridiculously foolish enough to believe that if you put in all the work and it's one-sided and you're not getting anything in return, then you're going to lose motivation to maintain that level of effort, the level of discipline. So what I encourage with my couples is, and you'll notice in week 1 of the homework exercises, you guys were asked to make 2 very important vows to one another. One is I vow to hold your emotional well-being ahead of my own. And the other is I vow to show up in our relationship today better than I did yesterday. Now, those 2 vows are the start of working with me. So whether you work with me in this group program, whether you work with me one-on-one, I make everyone take those vows with their partner. Why do I do that? I do that because for me, commitment is the most important value we can bring into a relationship. A commitment to showing up better, which is what that second vow is, but also a commitment of selflessness. When I say that I hold my wife's emotional well-being ahead of my own, I'm saying I'm going to give unconditionally, right? Now, because she's taken that same vow with me, I know I'm receiving unconditionally. So I don't need to be afraid to put my wife's emotional well-being ahead of my own, because if I only put my emotional well-being ahead of her, and she's putting mine ahead of her, then no one's putting her emotional well-being ahead of her, or a part of me ahead of mine. So do you see where the reciprocity goes? I've got your back, you've got my back. So I don't need to have my back, and she doesn't need to have her back, right? We've got each other's back. And this is a reciprocity that is wildly different. And you guys will notice it in my content that I put out on Instagram, how I talk about things like needs are ridiculous words, boundaries are ridiculous words. The word just is another ridiculously overused word. My wife and I don't use these terms in the context of our relationship because we don't need to. If I want something from my wife, I just go and ask her for it. If she wants something from me, she comes and asks me for it. But you have to understand, you would only ask for what you want inside of your relationship if you believed that you were going to get what you were looking for. It's when you didn't think that you were going to get what you deserved, get what you wanted, get what you desired, that you would then, layer on those emotionally charged words such as, I just want this, I just need this, right? And go back to that first vow my wife and I've made with one another. I vow to hold your emotional well-being ahead of my own. Oh, well, I don't need to be emotionally charging my requests to make them valid somehow. I can just simply go to her and ask for what I want. Now, a lot of people say, well, what if I can't give my partner what they want? Well, welcome to the club. I mean, I'm thoughtless, lazy, and sensitive 10 times a day before lunch. There's times that, I've worked all day and then I go zone out on the couch, and my wife will have worked all day homeschooling our kids, and then she'll be the one that runs to the kitchen after she's done the grocery shopping, and then runs to the kitchen and starts making dinner and watches my lazy ass on the couch watching YouTube because I'm zoning out. And but there's seasons in your relationship and seasons in your day, but you would only have understanding and grace and kindness for your partner if you really understood that was just a season. That's just a moment when our partner can't show up the way we need them to show up. Excuse me. Now, I'm not lifelong committed to not showing up, and I'm not committed to being thoughtless, lazy, and sensitive day in, day out. It's just in those moments I'm feeling it. But when I am feeling it, I own it and I tell her that I'm just not up to it. I feel like zoning out on YouTube right now. And she'll say, "Yeah, okay, I've got your back. I can carry the load now." Because she knows that I just need to recharge, recover, and then I'm going to go to her and say, "But how can I make it up to you? How can I come back and tip the scale back in your favor so that you have a turn to be thoughtless, lazy, or insensitive, or just to zone out or to relax, whatever term you want to call it?" And so there's this commitment to reciprocity that my wife and I have for one another. And it's what I teach couples to have, is to have that commitment to cultivate that strong sense of reciprocity between the two of you. And that's where those two vows come from. Going back to that other most important vow, how can I show up today better than I did yesterday? Really, what that means is you're just saying to your spouse, "I'm going to make mistakes. Don't judge me for it and don't hate me for it and don't be resentful, because I'm planning on making good on those mistakes today." Right? The I have very strong faith. So for me, I turn to the Lord when I look at things like forgiveness, for example. And whether you have faith or whether you don't have faith, it doesn't matter what your faith is. But I definitely think that in the context of a relationship, we all could do better to cultivate more forgiveness for one another. And I turn to my faith to understand how I need to do that in my own marriage. But I also just think that forgiveness is the path forward. Forgiveness, unconditional forgiveness, is the path forward, because I mean, those speed bumps and the potholes and the mistakes that we can expect to encounter in our marriage, it's like the mail, they're never going away. You can solve all your problems today and know that you're going to hit a bunch of them tomorrow. But the question is, if you can't get good at that forgiveness and you can't, grow that muscle, then you're not going to really be interested in trying to make good and trying to repair and trying to move forward. So it's a commitment to reciprocity, and it's a commitment to forgiveness, a commitment to grace, kindness, warmth, that we want to hold and enter into our relationship from the day we say "I do" to every single day when you open your eyes. Now, I'm also keenly aware that this can't be one-sided. Like, you need two people to want to make these vows together, and you need two people to agree to make the effort and to carry these vows forward. But I'm assuming at least the people that are with me on this call, that most of you are here for that reason, because you want to make those vows. And I hope that I can teach you guys throughout this program, in the videos, in the home exercises, and then answering your questions on our calls like this, that I can teach you how to manage those speed bumps and those potholes that a couple find themselves, running into, but manage them in such a way that they don't send you off into the ditch, but that maybe your head's hit the roof of the car, but then half a mile down the road, you forgot that you even hit that pothole in the first place. And so I don't try to eliminate conflict, and I don't try to eliminate pain, because I know that's like trying to stop the mail. It's never going to happen. What we'll notice as we go through this program, and in a couple of weeks when we do the conflict resolution part, you guys are going to have language to manage those moments when one of you wants to be thoughtless, lazy, or insensitive, and how you move through that, and how you seek forgiveness, and how you repair in such a way that there is no need for resentment, and you can leave that in the rearview mirror like you do the potholes. So I like opening the program with that little bit, that little talk on the importance of those two vows. And if you're here alone, make them in your own mind for your partner, or to your partner. If they are amenable and they want to learn and watch these videos, they're more than welcome to. You guys have access to the videos, and you can share the login with them, and hopefully they can move through the exercises and make those two vows with you. So on that note, are there any questions before we get started with the Q&A? See another person just wanting to join us. Well, I have a question for you guys. Did a lot of you get through the videos for week 1? You can just give me a thumbs up or raise a hand. No? That's okay. So just to talk about the program in and of itself. So thank you, the Stevens. Is that your shared last name? So thank you for that thumbs up. And maybe I'll edit out that name portion. Sorry about that. That said, though, the way the program is structured is you're going to get the most out of it if you watch the video at the beginning of the week. That's why we host the calls on Thursday towards the end of the week, to give you guys a couple days to get through the videos. What I want you to do is I want you to listen to the video, and I want you to suspend all your beliefs and everything that you know about relationships. And I already mentioned, I alluded to those words like needs, boundaries, things like just, that type of stuff. I want you to, because I'm teaching you guys, this is a program of new language. It's a program of learning a new, building a new lexicon so that you could use it and rely on it as if it's automatic muscle memory in the way you speak to one another. Because I truly believe that the way we speak to each other radically changes the way in which we behave, but also the way our partner behaves. So you're going to watch the video or listen to it. It's great for the drive home. You can listen to it as a podcast, however you want. And it's given me a good idea to put it on a podcast format. But yes, either way, so you're going to listen to it, and then I want you to read the home exercises as quickly as possible. Now, you don't necessarily have to do all the home exercises right away. It's just enough to read the questions, because I see it as I'm planting seeds in your mind, and I'm getting you to think of things. I'm getting you to have conversations in your own head, ideally with your partner, because a lot of the questions are meant to be done by the two of you. But either way, these are questions truly meant to just plant seeds in your mind, because what you're going to learn working with me is I don't do the attachment theory. I don't do the insecure, avoidant, love language, mumbo jumbo garbage that I would go toe to toe with any therapist, any expert, Esther Pearl, Sue Johnson, but she's passed away. I will go toe to toe and say none of those love languages, attachment styles are helpful. They're not going to move the needle forward in your relationship. So you're going to get some of this stuff in the videos that you're going to hear from me. And I invite you to ask questions about my beliefs on these topics. But essentially, I'm trying to help you guys get what you want, not what you don't want. The elimination of an insecure attachment style is not a goal. It's certainly not a goal worth any of your time, because it only tells you that you've exhaled the carbon dioxide that you don't want, but you still haven't breathed in the oxygen that you do want. And in my mind, the oxygen that we want is not, well, it is a secure attachment, but it's things like connection, it's things like joy, it's things like physical intimacy, repair skills, those types of things. But if we were to dive into your attachment styles and your love languages that your partner doesn't speak, we'll do this for 50 weeks, not 5 weeks. And so if you want an expedited path to getting what you want, stick around for these 5 weeks. Listen to the video, work through the exercises as much as you can. I know all of us learn differently, so I don't expect all of you guys to, sit down and write them all out. Some people don't even write them out. Some people just make voice memos in their phone. Others, type it in their phone. A really good way to do it also is to take some of the questions that are in those home exercises and just send a voice memo to each other, either in WhatsApp or in your iMessage, and say, hey, sweetheart, what do you think of this question? And then you guys can trade voice memos back and forth. Sometimes that can be helpful to not be in the same room with your partner. Other times it can be great to be in the same room with your partner. But I'm just giving you guys the tips and tricks on how to use those conversation starters and the questions that you guys will find in those PDFs that are at the bottom of the videos that you guys are going to watch. So then if you have any questions throughout this process, throughout these 5 weeks, again, I'm going to say, send me an email, send me a DM, reach out to me on Instagram, contact me in any way that you can, ask me your specific question. Oftentimes, if it's short and sweet, I'll be able to answer it right then and there. Other times I may save it if I think the group wants, like if it's a better question to present to the group, I'll do that anonymously. But I'm happy to, take all your questions that you guys have throughout the program. So that's really important. We are going to be doing things like the marital inventory, which will happen. We'll walk through that next week. So I'm going to be sending you guys that, which is really important. There's a ton of other really good questions in there. You guys are going to be bombarded with so many different tools and strategies that I use. And you've got lifetime access. So you don't have to feel like you got to get it all done in 5 weeks. Take your time, use it as much as you can this week, take a break next week, whatever it is, you have access to everything. So that's really important. I think I'm pretty much through all the kind of like ins and outs of the program. Does anyone have any questions so far just on the program side before we start getting to the Q&A? Is that all pretty good? Yeah, I'm gonna take a sip of water. Sorry. Which people were laughing at me in the videos when I would just tell people I'm taking a sip of water, and they're like, why are you telling people that? Other people asked where my blonde hair went from the videos too. I was surfing back then, sometimes up to 3 hours a day. So I had really nice sun bleached hair, and now I live in the city and I only get to surf every so often. So you may notice a color difference in my hair, and no, I didn't dye it back then. So okay, I'm just gonna pull up I've got some questions from week 1. Does anyone have any questions now? Any questions about the content or relationship specific that you guys want to share or dive into now? You guys are a real quiet group. I mean, we'll be done really quick if
Hey, can I ask
yeah,
a question? Hey,
of course.
Jonathan. So I went through most of your content. We're a little lagging behind, but loving a lot of it and trying to apply it. But where I'm struggling is that I know you say that ask for what you want,
Yeah.
but what if it comes really difficult to you? Like if sometimes you're a person who doesn't like to ask,
Yeah.
um, and then what happens is that you fight that urge and you do ask,
Hmm.
but it doesn't work out, and then that starts off this really vicious cycle of feeling like your cup's not getting full,
Hmm.
and that drains you. So how do you kind of break that cycle is what I'm feeling, and what that does is that sometimes you don't want it to be such a burden as well, right? You don't want to be that person who's needing your partner to change so much. It also
Hmm.
sometimes starts feeling like you don't have gratitude for what you already have. So um, yeah, I think that's where I'm struggling. How to strike that right balance.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
No, it's a really great question. And actually, someone had asked that very same question in the home exercises too. So this would be great. I'll be able to kill two birds with one stone. So week one is about asking your partner for what you want and really building a culture in your home and in your relationship of it's safe to ask for what we want. Now, let's explore just briefly why someone wouldn't ask for what they want inside of their relationship. People generally don't ask for what they want because of fear, shame, guilt, or embarrassment. I'm afraid to ask. I'm embarrassed to ask. I don't believe I deserve it. I believe there's shame wrapped around my request. And think of any of those requests, intimacy, type of intimacy, um, someone to do the dishes for you, someone to take care of you when you're sick, someone to give you a hug, someone to not DM with a coworker, right? Someone to have your back when your mother-in-law shits on you. Like there's all of these are wants and all of these are desires. The only reason why someone really is afraid or has trouble asking for what they want is they don't believe either they deserve it or they don't believe that their partner will respond with the most important phrase that your partner's supposed to respond to your request is, how can I help you get what you want? And so I really want you guys to remember and burn that question in your brains right now. How can I help you get what you want? Now, that single statement or that single question, how can I help you get what you want? I think would save more marriages than 80% of the work I do if I could just teach people to ask that question of their partner when their partner comes to them with a request. And why is that important? Well, a lot of you guys are going to be parents. A lot of you guys have kids, for example. Now I've got a 12-year-old and I also have a 9-year-old. My 12-year-old wants a horse, although she's kind of toned that down a little bit since she's gone to school. But ask her any day of the week and she'll tell you that she wants a horse. And my youngest, she wants a wiener dog, right? And I am not pet friendly whatsoever. Like I don't like to touch animals. I don't like the oil on my hands. Um, Although I am warming up to this idea of a wiener dog, but I don't ever want my children to grow up in a home where they can't come to their father and ask for what they deeply want, what they deeply desire, what their hopes and dreams are. I would never want my children to grow up in fear, thinking that my help and support and helping them get what they want is not something that they should be able to access. I want my children to grow up in a home in which when they have a desire, a want, or a request, they know that it's automatically going to be met with a dad that says, how can I help you get what you want? And I apply that same to my 9-year-old and I apply that to my wife. And let's just imagine you in your home, that everyone that lives in your home, you, your partner, your kids, your animals, guests when they come over. Why do we do that with guests so well? A guest comes over and they're standing in the kitchen. Like how many of you said, help yourself to anything in the fridge? Like we do that all the time, right? So I just know that I want my home to be filled with a culture in which people feel good about asking for what they want, knowing that everyone else in that home exists to help them get what they want. It doesn't mean I'm going out to buy my 12-year-old a horse, but maybe I'm going to be buying a wiener dog. But talk to me 3 months ago, I would have said a flat out no. But just when I can respond with how can I help you get what you want, I'm saying I'm curious about why you want what you want, what alternatives could look like if I can't give you the exact thing that you want. How could we help you get what you want together? Like when I'm asking that question, how can I help you get what you want? I'm expressing a profound curiosity for my wife, right? And I just don't know many people that leave marriages when they feel like their partner is so curious about who they are. Like if you're walking around knowing that your spouse has an unlimited supply and amount of curiosity for you, your wants, desires, your hopes, dreams, everything, I just don't think you ever leave that marriage. So The only reason why you wouldn't want to help your spouse get what they truly want and deeply desire is because you don't have a curiosity for them, for why they want what they want or how to help them get what they want. And so you got to ask yourself, do you want to live as a not curious person and, walk around? I mean, we all have a million examples of, you've run into the person behind the counter at the DMV or at the bank and they're just so miserable. And you're like, why are you in this job? Like you don't like people, you don't like connecting with people. The only reason why they don't want to connect is because they don't give a shit about you, right? They don't care to know you. They don't care to learn about your kids and your kid that goes off to college, or that they're just not interested, right? So a lack of curiosity sends this enormous message to your spouse that I am not interested in you. And people leave those marriages all the time, right? So wants equal curiosity. If you allow your spouse and encourage them to come to you with their wants because you're curious about their wants, remember, they're never going to leave you and you'll never leave them. Meredith, my wife, is saying someone sent a message or a question. What if your partner isn't curious about you? And someone just asked, sweetheart, I think there's another good question there too. So what would lead someone to not be curious? I would say what leads someone to not be curious about you is pain, their own personal emotional pain. So and that could be as a result of the hurts that you've caused them. Like I see that all the time. Like, you've hurt me so much. I've now cut you off emotionally. I've lost curiosity for you because you're too painful to be in a relationship with. So, so the antidote to that is you've got to exhale and help them exhale the pain so that they can inhale the joy. Now, if you've hurt them and they haven't been curious about you for a long, long time, that's easier said than done. I'm not so stupid to think that you can flip their switch and say, oh, just be curious about me again. That's not how it works. So in that instance, what I would do is I would say to them, can we hit pause on your emotional pain? And can I make a commitment to you, not too dissimilar from the two commitments that I gave you guys at the beginning? You can ask them, would you give me the space and the time to be a source of emotional joy for you? Not just a source of emotional pain, but I want to be a source of emotional joy for you. Now, the only thing I ask in return is that as I endeavor from this day forward to be a source of emotional joy for you, I just ask that you see my effort. Now, are you guys all familiar with the saying, if a tree falls in the forest and no one was there to see it, did it make a sound? Right? So if you're showing up day in, day out, and your partner doesn't see it, well, you're going to lose curiosity for them really quick, right? So if you're making all kinds of effort to be a source of emotional joy for them, asking them questions, sending them DMs, someone blocked some people on Snapchat to send a message that I care about you. And, you're making all these like micro moves on a day in, day out, consistent basis to choose and cherish your spouse. But if they're not seeing it, well, it's not going to motivate you to want to continue those efforts, and vice versa, obviously. But what you want to do for that partner that's not showing that curiosity is you just want to say, look, there's too much pain here that's causing you to not see my efforts, not be interested in my efforts. What I'm asking is that we can just hit pause on this pain. I don't even know how to solve it. We'll worry about solving the pain later. We'll worry about all these other things later. What we're just going to try and do is catch our breath. Let's just hit pause on the pain, not even worry about how to figure it out. We'll do that later. We'll hit pause and we're just going to try to replace it with some joy. What can we do today to cultivate more joy in our relationship? Is that a date night? Is it a walk? Is it cuddling, watching Netflix? Is it a check-in? Can I swing by the supermarket, pick something up for you? I don't know what it is and what it looks like, but you want to just start getting curious about how you could cultivate and bring more joy into your relationship. I think someone had a follow-up question to that. There's like lots. Sweetheart, are you like?
Yeah.
So I think we're gonna have way too many questions. What I may do is just do a separate voice recording that I tack onto this to kind of tackle all the questions because we've got a lot and it's going to be a little difficult.
I would jump into the document, like go through the questions.
Yeah.
Sent in.
Yeah, I will. Does anyone have any questions about any of that curiosity piece? This curiosity piece is really going to come up over and over and over in the work that I do. So you guys will see it over the next 5 weeks. But just burn that in your memory, though, that burn in your memory that people don't leave relationships when they feel like their partner has an insatiable curiosity for them. It's like that is it. No one can ever claim that they feel alone, unseen, unheard, unvalidated when their partner's curious for them. So I think that's one of the most powerful things. And on that note, like, would you rather learn your love language, or would you rather learn how to express and show curiosity for your partner? Like, what do you think would move the needle faster in a relationship? Trying to figure out why you're insecurely attached or avoidant, or trying to learn how you can express and receive more curiosity for one another. It's why I don't waste my time on those other form modalities of relationships.
I go into the questions document,
Okay.
ask about the trust one,
Where's the trust one?
the first one, like the building a bubble around your
Oh,
marriage.
yeah.
The partner isn't quite on board.
Have any of you guys seen my stuff about the relationship bubble that I talk about on Instagram? Sending that message that you're in a relationship. Well, there was a question here. Basically, it was a woman in her mid 40s, and I had to condense it because it was a really long question, but woman in her mid 40s, I think she's living with her fiance. They had both been betrayed by past relationships. They also did betraying in the past relationships. But she said they built a strong relationship and they're committed to trust and openness now, which is really great. I mean, people shouldn't, on that note, actually, you'll hear me from time to time talk about forgiveness in the context of why do you want to extend forgiveness to your partner? Whether that's for an infidelity, whether that's for flirting, whether that's for years of emotional neglect, whatever it is. Why do you want to forgive someone, particularly your partner? I'm going to tell you that. The only way that you will have a successful long-term partnership and stay together is when there's unconditional forgiveness happening all the time. I'm not saying it has to be given overnight. Trying to say to someone, forgive your partner for cheating on you is way easier said than done. I don't even know if that nuclear bomb went off in my marriage, what I would do. That said, though, if we can't extend forgiveness to our partner, we basically tell them that they are not a whole person in our mind. And this is really important because if I cheat on you and you can't forgive me for that cheating, I must be, in your mind, broken, tarnished, untouchable in some area. I promise you, I will never stay in a relationship where I don't feel like I can be a whole good person again. And indeed, even that partner that steps outside of the marriage, indeed, that partner has to still see them at some point in their life, in the context of their relationship, as a good person, a good man, or a good woman. If you don't forgive your partner, you're telling them you're not a good man or a good woman. And that's fine. And it's absolutely people's right to do that. I just don't think that the person who doesn't believe that their partner thinks that they can ever be a good person again, they will leave that relationship and they'll go find a new relationship, because in that new relationship, that new person will allow them to be a good man or woman. People can't walk around with like a half identity or a shell of themselves. They've got to all, people need to be a whole person. And it's why, like, when you go on the streets of your major cities and you see those people that are, struggling with addictions and whatnot, even the people that commit, shoplifting and crimes and stuff like that, the way we deal with those people is one of two ways. We could deal them with a label like an addict or a criminal, or you can see them as a friend, a brother, a son, a wife, a sister. We need to see the good in people. Now, when someone hurts you in such a way, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to continue a marriage with them. But if you do plan to continue a relationship with them, it is wise to extend that forgiveness, which is why I talk a lot about forgiveness. Now, in the context of this couple, she was just saying that her struggle is that he's friendly with two female coworkers who send funny videos to and from each other. But she said when she asked to see, he'll show his phone to her quite quickly, but then he puts it away. But he doesn't share his password, doesn't share his location with her. And now I'm not saying that there's like an active affair going on, but ultimately she's feeling quite anxious. And so she's asking how she can invite him into that bubble of transparency and talk about what's bothering her without sounding controlling, but asking him probably for more transparency about his communication with other women, with coworkers. She said she doesn't want to feel like she's controlling and trying to assert power over him, but she's seeking reassurance. And that piece of reassurance that she's looking for in a relationship, that's really critical, because that in that relationship bubble that I talk about letting the world know that really your only priority is your spouse. They're the only ones that have access to that deep emotional connection to you. That's what I refer to as the bubble, is to telegraph to the world that there's really only one person in my inner circle. There's only one person that has access to that part of me. I'm assuming because he doesn't do that with her, it's making her feel really anxious and insecure. And so she's ultimately asking, how can I, get the reassurance that I'm looking for? In that particular point, I mean, there's a few red flags about him that kind of make me wonder, but that idea of not sharing your location, not sharing your phone password, every couple's to decide what they want in their own marriage and in their own relationship. I just know what works best in mine, and my wife and I have open access to everything. Obviously, he struggles with that and really isn't hitting pause long enough to understand what that's doing to her, right? So there's that lack of curiosity that he's allowed to kind of overcome his, the way he treats her, the way he shows up. If she's too afraid to ask him for reassurance, there's that fear again that she's afraid to ask for what she wants. And that's a big problem in a relationship, because now she's afraid to ask for what she wants, and he's not curious about what it is that she wants, right? So in that instance, my question to him would be, what do you think it would mean to her to have the reassurance that she's looking for? And what would it mean to you to know that you're with someone who has no doubt about your fidelity towards them, right? So these are some of the leading questions that I would want to ask him, what it is that would how much better would their relationship be? How much better would he feel knowing that his fiance, and I kind of say walked around, the most secure woman on the planet, because really that's what the curiosity does. When you have a deep, profound curiosity for your partner, I think it erases all those insecurities and those self-doubts. And I think the biggest flex in the world is to walk around knowing that well, the biggest flex is knowing that your spouse or your partner walks around feeling like they're the most secure person in the world.
Someone just said there's a difference between privacy and secrecy. And then we just.
Yeah, someone said difference. There is indeed a difference between privacy and secrecy. I'll let you guys answer that. I don't know if there's anything private from my wife. I mean, she and I swap bodily fluids all the time. So like, is there much more privacy than that? I mean, when she's going to the washroom, I don't go in, but like, when I also go back to my faith in this point too. Mark 10 verse 8 talks about two becoming one flesh. And I don't, again, whether you have faith or whether you don't have faith, I think what's in the Bible there about two becoming one, the message to me is that we are one and the same. The message is that we move through this life together. And so the way I kind of modernize that is I see my own brain, my own mind as my internal hard drive that's tethered to my wife's brain and her mind, which is my external hard drive. And so when I need to tap into her, I just go click on that file and I, get what I need from her and vice versa. But what I know, she's welcome to know, and what she knows, I'm welcome to know. We don't keep anything from each other. But again, I mean, couples are, they're left up to themselves to decide what works for them, but that's just what works for us. So,
I highlighted in yellow the next chunk of questions I think you should address.
okay. I don't know. Yeah, we've got 10 minutes. Okay, well, we'll get to, does anyone have any questions while I'm in here with you guys about any of that stuff that we just spoke about? How are you guys feeling about curiosity? Have you thought about this a lot? Has this been on your radar before? No takers?
I actually think about curiosity similar to a growth mindset
Yeah.
in that, always want to be growing both individually and together and
Mhm.
as a family. I mean, I think there's a third piece there too.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that my husband shares that perspective, but that is definitely where my head's at for sure.
No, I love that. It's very much a growth mindset, and I think it also speaks to me because I love to learn. Personally, I can't feed that beast enough. But for your husband, I would be curious to know how he learns and what he's interested in, to see how you could tap into that. And he may not be like I'm not interested in. My wife will laugh at me all the time, but I'm not interested in reading the parenting books. And she's like, how can my marriage and family therapist husband say stupid shit to our kids? And she's often trying to get me to read that stuff. So we have interests, right? There's certainly different interests, but there's got to be a way to leverage and talk about that. Like, how can we get curious about the things that we're interested in, and and maybe use that analogy of the internal hard drive and the external hard drive. Like, whereas my wife is so much better in the parenting realm, if I'm not willing to put in the work to learn, I'm willing to defer to her expertise and access her brain when it comes to emotional maturity in a 12-year-old going on 13 in a month, right? So
And I think similar. I guess I need to figure out how to be interested in fishing.
yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, but maybe now I don't know what your roles are at home, like, but I think approaching it from a perspective of, hey, I'm going to be interested in certain things, you're going to be interested in other things. Can we lean on each other when we don't want to, take an interest in what each other's interest,
You can
but
share.
then borrow from each other, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. That makes complete sense. And lease the horse. Don't buy a horse.
Lease a horse.
Don't buy it.
I thought is that better to lease?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, so much less expensive, and they're the best pets. They are not in your house.
Yes, yes. Yeah. I don't know what a wiener dog would do. I kind of think I'd like a wiener dog though. Like it would just be cute and cuddly. So,
Is that a
but I
sausage
think
dog?
they can be barky. I don't know. So,
Is that a sausage dog?
That's sausage.
Not you?
yeah.
Is that a sausage dog? Is a wiener dog a sausage dog? One of the long
Yeah.
ones? Ah,
It's
right,
the
yeah.
sausage dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. You can check.
Do you? Yeah, say something.
I suppose that, like, for the curiosity thing, I really like that. I think when you've been through traditional kind of therapies before, it's constantly looking backwards at what is not right. And I've never heard that word mentioned before
Mhm.
in relation to that couples therapy kind. I don't know, maybe that's just the people that we've seen, but it's very much, it sounds more hopeful to me. It just sounds
Way
more
more.
positive and yeah, like you're looking for something as opposed to looking through the back window what happened 10 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, we don't want to stay stuck and like we need growth and we need to move forward. And every single one of us here has hurt our partner and made mistakes. And nothing is going to change that. But also, those mistakes and those hurts, I mean, we can turn the volume down on them because we're learning and growing, right? I don't believe in the blank check theory of like, I'm going to let you hurt me yesterday and today and tomorrow with the same hurt. I mean, part of that curiosity is going back to the second vow of how can I show up today better than I did yesterday? If you're in a relationship where you've got someone that says, how do I make good on the way I hurt you in the past? That's a curiosity question, right? You may not know the answer, and I'm not saying you need to know the answer right now, but the idea is that, you're interested in learning, going back to Krista, your growth mindset, it's all about where do we go from here, not where we're coming from. So.
Jonathan?
Yeah.
Jonathan, I had dinner with my wife last night, and she revealed some intimate things about her past with her husband and everything. He's now deceased. And I don't know what happened. I blanked out. I wasn't present. And I don't know what to do with that. That happens often when we talk. She'll share something intimate with me, and then I know subconsciously don't want to hear it. And it really bothers her. And it's hard to come back from that because it's like I've totally negated what she said. I didn't hear it. And it just puts a ruffle between us for the next, like, maybe a couple of hours or a day. And I don't know what to do with that for me.
I mean, so in my mind, maybe like through the maybe the complexity or the gravity of whatever it is she said, let's say you go into like deer in the headlights mode, right?
Okay.
Or just like you freeze, it's not something that you're used to or that you expected to even have to talk about. You'll want to keyword that in your mind, like, just drop that keyword and, just say to her, I love what you said, or I love that you said what you said, or I love that you felt safe or good to say what you said. I may not actually like what you said, but I'm glad that you could say what you wanted to say to me. This is a little bit much for me right now. I'm going to keyword this and come back to this. And the idea is that, like, if you're saying that you're asking, I mean, this happened last night, you're asking me now, what do I do about that? That's a good sign, because what if you didn't even ask me this now? And what if you just completely forgot it and just, you know, you weren't even self-reflective enough to ask yourself, how can I get better at this? Right? So the situation could be way worse, that you couldn't even want to come back to this in the first place. But now you're saying that you are wanting to learn and grow and figure out how to go to her. So my next question would be, if you were to like say to her, hey, I need a little bit of space and time here to process this, do you shrink that from 12 hours down to 6 hours, and then from 6 hours down to 3 hours, and then 3 hours down to 1 hour, and then next thing you know, you're doing it in the moment, right?
Okay.
So I would be looking at it from a perspective of, how can I get better at this by shortening the duration between us talking about it, versus trying to ask myself, why am I not good at it? Because
Well,
if
I've done it.
you ask yourself why you're not good at it, you're just asking yourself why you have the thing that you don't want, right?
Okay. I guess the hard part is for her to come back, because this has happened multiple times and it's pushed her away. And it really is, I mean, I hear what you're saying about going back and cutting the time in between each episode, but I think she's getting tired of it. She is getting tired of it.
Hmm.
How does he stay present and remember what she said? Good question.
Yeah, so my wife just said, how do you stay present and remember what you said? You know, I would probably, well, first you got to buy yourself some time with her, right? So if she's saying she's tired, you would want to ask her, if you didn't feel tired of how I receive what you talk about with me, if you didn't feel tired, how would you rather I behave? Or what would you rather hear? How would you, if you felt better about our conversation and not tired, what would that better look like? So you got to find out, what is she looking for? And tired is not what she wants. And so now you got to find out what the opposite of tired is. To get yourself.
Jonathan,
Yeah.
I'm here.
Oh, hi. Yeah.
Hi, listening to this. And it's fascinating to me how we have such different perspectives. I don't want to waste a lot of your time, but when we were at dinner last night, we're on a road trip right now.
Mhm.
And yesterday morning we started the road trip. And when I start my road trip, and I admitted it, and this is what I was trying to explain to him last night, I get in my OCD mode, and you know, it's overwhelming to me. We live on an island. We were trying to leave at a specific time with the ferry. And I just felt like I was the one coordinating everything, and I was getting really frustrated. And at dinner last night, and I said, you know, this has happened to me before. And and listening to you, I said, you know, Jonathan came with this great example that he can walk in a room and he can gauge his wife's vibes immediately. You know what's going on with her. And I said, this has happened before, so obviously you know that I'm in this vibe. And instead of feeling that, you know, that somehow I've being rude to you, or, you know, could you just give me the grace and know that this is how she acts and this is what she does, and then let me get out of that, which I did. And I later in the day I tried to be playful and you know, and touch, you know, Andrew and just, you know, and it wasn't, in my perspective, it wasn't a situation where he just deer in the headlights, didn't know what to do with it. He came back and he started to beat me down. And yeah, you did this, and this was, you know, and this is unacceptable, and blah 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 blah. And I was like, I'm being vulnerable. I'm putting out there, I did this, and this is, and I don't like how I get, and it's part of me. And could you just find the grace though to let it pass through me, and let's get beyond this, instead of, you know, condemning me. So this is a different perspective, where he's saying he just zoned out, didn't want to listen to it. And what I got from him, I felt was a beat down. So that's how we're different, I guess.
Both times Janice brought up about her husband. you know, how much I'm similar to him in instance. Didn't you?
No, just last night. The only thing I explained to my late husband is that I used to do that with him too. And he just got to a point where he knew what he had to do. and he knew what lane to stay in, and he gave me that grace. And I work my way out of it. And it's not a great thing to, you know, to admit that, you know, yeah, I turn into this kind of monster type person where, oh my God, I got to get all this stuff together and get out of my way. And, you know, you're not doing this right. Yeah.
Well, let me get to that. And then, because I know we got to wrap up, but my gut tells me that there's some element of fear there. And sorry, what was your name?
I'm Janice, and this is Andrew.
And Andrew, yeah, Andrew. My gut tells me that, like, that inability to read the vibe. I actually think everyone reads vibes. It's just there can be a fear around the vibe. Not saying that you're scary in any way, shape, or form. I actually think it's probably more rooted in a childhood. And Andrew, you'd have to correct me and let me know if I'm speaking out of turn but typically when we walk into a room and there's a vibe and we don't want to, you know, meet it head on, there's usually some type of fear built around the vibe. A fear of the repercussion, a fear of the fallout of the conversation and whatnot. And so I think, like, basically everything that you guys are talking to me about is, I think there's an undercurrent of being afraid to ask for what you want, being afraid to be asked for what by your partner for what they want, as opposed to coming out with an outward expression of safety in terms of, hey, sweetheart, how can I help you? Or, hey, I'd love for you to help us get ready to leave so that we can, you know, get that ferry on time. We're leading with, basically what I'm saying is we're leading with fear as opposed to leading with connection. And I think this would be a good, maybe I'll do write a newsletter on this topic, because it's something that that fear is the emotion of, you know, it's the part of the iceberg that peeks out above the water, but there's a whole giant iceberg underneath the water. And my sense is that there's something in there that makes it difficult to have those connected conversations. And I think that fear is coming out first. And this is a little bit hard to do back and forth, because I'd have a million other different questions for you guys. But Janice and Andrew, if you guys reach out to me through email, just send me a reminder. Maybe I'll have my wife. I've got a really good book for men on this topic that I'll share with you guys, and I'll put it in a you can write it down now. It's called The King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. It's about 150 pages. It's written by Douglas Moore and Robert Moore and Douglas Gillette, I think. But it's a really good book for men on the journey of mature masculinity. It doesn't give you the how-tos, but it kind of gives you a lot of the theory behind it. But that could be a good resource to read. But yeah, my gut instinct tells me that there's fear there that's blocking that ability to feel emotionally safe and connected, to have those more challenging conversations. But sweetheart, if you make a note of that, maybe I'm gonna answer some of these questions, because we got a bunch left that I'll put in a separate Q&A, and I'll send it out to you guys. And maybe we can address it there, or we put it in a newsletter or something like that. So awesome, guys.
If there's any fun questions, email us. I think we'll probably do an audio recording to answer.
Yeah. So if you have any final questions about today's session, anything that we didn't cover, I know there's a lot there, drop it in an email and I will do an audio Q&A response that I'll attach to this when we upload it tomorrow, and send out the replay to everyone. So amazing, guys. Well, thank you all. Same time next week. Good luck with all of the videos, and just remember you have lifetime access. So get through as much as feels good do as many of the home exercises feel, that you can manage in a week, and know that you don't have to finish it in 5 weeks. So